Welcome to the Father-Daughter Experience. Today, we're going to talk about something that we both find a little bit annoying, and that is concert etiquette. We have a little bit of a recent voyage into the realm of concerts. We attended one all as a family not too long ago, and Olivia and Celia went to go see the Killers concert the night prior to us recording this. So we've got some fresh ideas. So we're going to dive into some ideas around concert etiquette, the do's, the don'ts. What kind of person are you? What are the things that you do when you're at concerts? And, what are the things that we do while we're there to make our experience good, but also the experience for those around us?
Yeah, maybe give you something to chew on about it for the next time you go to a concert.
Absolutely. I think there's definitely pieces to this conversation that some people will agree with and others will probably find a little bit annoying.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you think about going to a concert, how would you categorize yourself? Do you think that you are... I think there's two types of people at a concert. I think there are people that go to concerts that are respectful. Mm-hmm. So they go there and they recognize, like, I'm going to go to a concert. There's going to be a lot of other people around me. Like, I want to make sure, like, I have a great time and everybody else has a good time. Mm-hmm. And then I think there are the selfish people that you run into at concerts that are there for themselves. Like, this is my favorite fucking band and I'm going to have the best time of my life.
Yeah.
How do you categorize yourself?
Honestly, I think it really depends. I think I am mostly a pretty considerate person. One, because, and we'll talk about this more later, I'm sure, I'm tall, so I'm very aware of myself in space. But two, because, concerts aren't inexpensive and they are like a limited time offer. It's not like going to a theme park or like an exhibition or something where you can kind of spend all day and enjoy something. It's like, I have this 90-minute set to enjoy a band I like with lots of other fans. But I think generally, honestly, concert ticket buyer wise too, kind of in hand with concert goer, I don't go to a lot of concerts unless I really care about the band. Sure. Or someone offers me like, I have an extra ticket. Do you want to come? Because while I like live music, I'm not super engaged in a show if I don't know it and kind of like have like the lyrics memorized and stuff.
I was going to
say, what about you?
I was going to say you definitely are the kind of person. I think you are. We're going to this concert. Here are the previous set lists. I'm going to learn a lot of the songs. So
I'm a concert prepper.
Right.
Well,
like you have your bunker.
Yeah. So recently I've been like talking about this idea about being like an album completionist with my friends. Like, do you listen to like every album from an artist as it comes out?
Sure.
And
every
who
song
are the artists that you do that with? And I specifically came up because the Killers are probably one of only like 3 artists that I am that kind of person with.
Right.
Everything they listen to, whether I like it ultimately or not, I listen to all of it. So for this concert, I looked at the set list and Mom is not as big a fan of the Killers. I mean, she likes their music and enjoys and knows like lots of like their bigger hits, but I put together like a playlist so that she could better enjoy it.
It's so crazy because I'm thinking about like when we first started listening to that original Killers album, I have to think it had to have been around 2003.
Sure.
So you would have been...
I know, yeah.
So
I remember
like 5,
growing up listening to like Mr. Brightside remixes.
I remember working in retail and having like that album playing in the back room of a lot of the stores that I worked in because lots of people listened to it.
But yeah, okay. So I'm a considerate, occasional concert prepper.
Sure.
What kind of concert goer are you?
I think I'm very much I fall into the respectful category. I think teenage me definitely fell into this selfish category. Like when I think about some of the things that I was writing down when we were talking about this conversation, just notes for myself, it was, are you selfish? Are you respectful? Mm-hmm. Do you stay in your own bubble? Or are you like jumping all over the place? And we can talk about some of those things. Are you on the floor person? Are you sitting in the seats person? Mm-hmm. Right? Like all of those things we can talk a little bit more about, but I think pre-21-year-old me that went to a lot of punk shows, went to a lot of rock shows, went to a lot of like high energy shows. I definitely was I'm here to have a good fucking time and I'm going to leave this place probably soaked in my own sweat because I've been jumping around and I've been in a crowd of people.
Right.
But I think that was the general feeling for a show like that. I think you were in a situation where everybody was kind of that, we're here like to bang around and have a good time and, you know, scream and yell and do all those things. And I think as I've gotten older and some of the concerts I've gone to are a little bit different, I think I am 100% the opposite, which is I am very respectful. Like I have like a plan of attack based on like how we go. You're a prepper in that you study the playlists. I have this whole idea of like, I like to know like all the logistics. I would sound completely probably obsessive compulsive when you break down the way my brain works, but like I want to go to the concert. I want to know where we're going to be. Like I want to know like when are we kind of, you know, what are our plans for what we're going to do? How are we getting out? Like I already have my exit strategy before I go into a show. But especially when you go to a live show, and especially if we're going to be on the floor, I really figure out like what is the positioning I want to take, because like you were saying, and I know we mentioned this a few times, when we go to shows, I typically plant my big, tall, giant ass in one spot, and I do not move from that spot in a way that I'm saying like, this is my space. You can fill in all around me, but like I'm staying here so that I don't piss anybody off later on. Right. I was looking at a list of things like what's considered concert etiquette, and it says like don't stand in front of anybody who's shorter than you. Well, that's bullshit, because then I would be at the back of a venue.
Right.
So then you're just telling me show up middle of the show and then just walk in the back door and stand by the bar. Like no, there are a lot of bands I want to be close to. So for me, I'm respectful, but in a planned out way of I'm here, this is my area, you're going to have to fill in around me.
Correct.
Yeah. So I think like, so for you, when you go to a show, what are those, you know, like, again, so now that you are a prepper, you're singing along with songs. Are you singing or are you screaming along with the lyrics?
I mean, it depends. There's lots of songs that like I just really enjoy. But like obviously like for the Killers example, Mr. Brightside, like I was screaming like basically that whole song, because that's like a song that warrants you screaming. I will say kind of like I'd love to go to kind of the standing debate really quick in this, because so Mom and I were talking about this last night, but Mom was like, I'm much more like, there's like parts of a concert where there's a lull and you want to sit down. And I completely agree. But my mind, depending on the ticket. So like the Killers, obviously it was tiered out, and I paid a premium to be in the VIP to have early access to get closer to the stage, because I was like, well, if I'm going to see them now, I don't know when they're going to go on tour again.
Right.
I'm going to go all in
Splurge.
on this experience. But what I was thinking, because Mom brought up a good point, like when we like went and saw Taylor Swift, we were not in a like GA pit for the Reputation tour.
Right.
We were standing in our seats and like our seated area and dancing in our space, but we didn't really sit down during that concert. And so like that's something I was thinking about too, though, is these concerts where you're in a seating area, but you still don't ever sit down.
Sure.
So sometimes, depending again on like pricing, I'm like, well, like for the Killers concert, I was probably going to be standing that whole show anyway, except for one or two songs, maybe. So I want to pay that premium to like stand down there the whole time. Sure. But I do think like, you know, when we go, but like I do want to sit when like I go to concerts of like bands I don't know, or like my friend Jed in college would go to like shows, or like we went and we saw like Churches, and like that was a band that like I only knew like 2 songs of, and like there was like a point midway through that tour where I was like, dang, kind of wish I had a chair right now. I'd love to be sitting.
Sure, I'll listen to this, but right, I'm not like super amped and into the whole entire experience.
Yeah, but I think in terms of like, your question was about prepping and how
just like etiquette in general, right? Like where do you fall in, like what kind of person are you in, like, so like what, again, so let's talk about this.
Much like you.
So are you adjusting? So when you say like, so the Taylor Swift show, everybody is standing in their seats,
right?
But I feel like you need to go with the general population flow.
Correct. You follow when you're sitting and you're standing. You follow everybody else, because it's rude if you're
the only one
if you're standing in front of people who are sitting.
Correct.
Yes, and I'm on board with that. I think like in the case of the concert we were just at last night, because you weren't there, I sort of took on that responsibility. And, without heels, I'm 6'1". In the heels I was wearing last night, I am your height. So I was about 6'4".
Right.
And I was wearing these like heeled boots. And the thing was that like I wore them kind of specifically to be like, okay, I'm like an authority. And then here's my mom that I'm here protecting, who's, not short, but not as tall as me.
And definitely not as aggressive as either.
No, but mom has like a little
Your mother
mama
has
bear
fire
in her. Yeah. My mom has 2 wolves in her, and one of them wants to rip people's throats out, and the other one is like, hello, I'm just like a lovely, beautiful Olivia dog.
Don't yell at us. Yeah. Don't yell at our family.
Mom's 2 wolves are a like sweet domesticated golden retriever and an absolutely feral wolf.
And a dire wolf, essentially.
Yeah.
No.
Anyway, but so like in the case of like last night, I think when I go into that situation, I know I'm very tall and I know we're very close to the front of the stage.
Right.
So I'm very cognizant of that. So like we had some really short girls who were in front of us, and I did kind of like, I feel like corral around them.
You kind of mother hen a little bit. You're like,
yes. And so what I will say, so as these 2 openers kind of go through, in terms of etiquette, where I feel like when all the VIPs went in, we were good. We all were like, yep, we get what we're here for.
Sure. Like
we all paid a premium. We're going to respect each other's space. And where that kind of started to change was when the rest of the GA could come in, and they started like pushing up through our ranks as though like we weren't there.
Right.
And I found it really annoying. So it was like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Because the first time somebody kind of navigated through, she got us with the like, I'm just like looking for somebody, and then she just planted herself like right in front of us, and she was by herself. Yes, and I was really frustrated about that. But where I'll say like with concert etiquette, where I do become sort of like the alpha dog in a situation, and when you watch like how other people interact, is we had this couple kind of push up from the back with like beers in their hands, and they were also like, oh, our friends, and I just turned around and I was like, where? Point at them. And they were like, huh? No. It's fine. And this dude's like probably half my height. Again, I am very imposing in like these shoes.
Sure.
But what I will say is there were all of these men around, and they were dead silent. The second like I was speaking up, it was like everyone's kind of like looking away, and these other dudes that are like my height are just like dead silent. And I'm like, no. What? You're not going to bother it now because I'm a tall woman, so you don't feel as like defensive of me, it feels like. But let me finish my thought.
Go for it.
But what I noticed is though, like anytime like a couple or like a guy would try to like push in front of like a dude and his girlfriend, it's like a totally different story, because then like his shorter girlfriend needs to be protected, and her experience needs to be protected. So I felt like a little like, this is weird, but it had to be me, mom, and these 2 women who were even shorter, that they were probably like at my hip height, who just like kind of turned around, and we were all just like, no, like back off, dude. Like we've all been waiting here. We all paid. And he immediately turned it around on us and was like, oh, don't worry, girls. I'm not interested in any of you.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, honey, your fucking girlfriend's right there. None of us think you're interested in us. Right. We're all here to see the Killers. We're all the Killers' biggest fan in theory.
One of the things that I think about when I think about like the ways that different crowds react to different situations or confrontation is always really surprising to me, right? Because I always think there's a crowd mentality, like people will get together, especially if there's an interloper, right? Like this is our space, like we'll protect it. And I think about when you were younger, we brought you to one of your first baseball games, and we were at a Minnesota Twins game. It's inside. It's inside a dome, so it's pretty protected. It's pretty quiet for a baseball game, and we're sitting there, and a few rows behind us. I mean, you must have been like 5 or 6 or 7 years old, probably.
I have like a vague memory of this. Yeah,
and there were a couple of guys behind us that had been having a couple of beers, and they didn't seem like they were drunk. They were just assholes, and they were belligerent, and they were screaming at the other team. And it was basically like everybody was a motherfucker. Everybody was an asshole. Everybody was like other stuff that I won't repeat. And I'm like listening to it. And after a little while, like I kept turning around and I would throw up my hands at them a little bit. Like, come on. And they were probably 3 rows behind us, because it wasn't right behind us, but it was close enough that like it was loud and it was obnoxious. And there were a lot of kids around, because obviously we were there at a time when it would make sense to bring a 7-year-old. So it was probably like a day game. And it finally got to the point where I was like, hey, guys, like, can you just watch the language? Like, I get it. You're at a baseball game. You want to yell and, talk shit to the opposing team. And I get it. And I swear, like, I'm not against swearing. It's more that, like, there are a bunch of, like, 7-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds. Like, I'm sure they hear that language. But at a baseball game, like, you want to do the whole America's pastime thing. So I'm like, can you knock it off? And I'm like, just calm it down. And then it was like I spurred them on, right? Then they're like, okay, guy, all right, whatever. And I turned around and they immediately start back in on it. And this is actually where your mother's wolf personality comes out, because your mother turns around and starts yelling at them. And I start yelling at them. And I looked around because everybody around us was complaining. There were other parents, other dads that were complaining about this stuff. And it's like, again, I was thinking, I'm going to rally the troops, right? Like, I'll start it and somebody else will jump in, right? Somebody will jump in because they didn't have to be the original aggressor.
Right.
Nothing.
Yep.
I was pissed at the guys at first, and then I was like, where's my backup here? I have an even worse version of a story, and you know this one. And this will be another one of those concert experiences. This is good. Here's another etiquette one. I'm going to look right into the camera and say this. Here's something do not do at a concert. Do not be this guy. I took your mother to see Depeche Mode. It's her favorite band. She'd been dying to see them. We'd been waiting forever and ever and ever for them to come anywhere even near us on tour. Weirdly, they came to the Minnesota State Fair. So we got tickets. We got floor seats. Floor seats meaning folding chairs out in front of the barn stage at the state fair.
Right.
And so we're on these folding chairs and we're standing there. And it was really funny because, again, your mother and I are standing there. We end up standing next to this other couple where the girlfriend of the man is probably 5'6", 5'5", 5'6". The boyfriend was like 6'9", 6'10". Like, when people make me feel little, I'm like, Jesus, this guy is huge. She was like, I'm really sorry. She's like, my boyfriend is a huge fan of Depeche Mode. He's probably going to be singing the entire time. And I said, my wife's the same way. Should we just switch spots and like let them sing and like yell together? So we were talking to them and we were friendly. And then there was another girl to like my left. And so we were talking to them during the concert, and there's this guy behind us who was like literally like, play Born to Run, play this. And like he's yelling songs.
Like a heckler.
He's just shit-faced, totally shit-faced. So at a certain point, and here's the disclaimer on don't do this, be a good person. All of a sudden, it's summertime in Minnesota. I'm in shorts and a t-shirt watching the concert. And all of a sudden, I feel like the back of my legs are getting wet. So I assume everybody's drinking. I assume the belligerent asshole behind me has spilled his beer like on my folding chair because we're standing up. I look at my chair, and this guy has essentially whipped it out, tried to pee on the ground instead of going to the bathroom, and he has hit the back of my chair. And if you can picture a folding chair, they're grooved.
Yep.
So he's hitting my chair. He's pissing all over the back of my legs. And even worse, he's swaying, so he pisses all over the girl's purse that's on her seat next to me.
Oh, dear God.
I turn around and I shove the guy backwards, and I'm like, are you serious right now? And the big dude's also next to me. Because your mother was standing in front of me, so she got none of it. This guy is standing next to me, the giant guy, and he goes, did we just get pissed on? And I was like, absolutely. We're going to fuck this guy up, right? Like I haven't hit another adult in my life, and I thought like this was my chance. So like I'm going to turn around, I'm going to punch this guy in the mouth if he doesn't leave. So I'm like, I turned around and told him to like get out of here. So I get pissed on. We don't leave the concert. We watch the whole show, and then I go to find like security at that point. Like after that, so the song ends, I go to security. I'm like, you got to get this guy out of here. He's pissing everywhere. And the security guard looks at me and goes, did you hit him? And I was like, no. He goes, you should have hit him. He goes, we weren't going to kick you out. Somebody pisses on you. He goes, you hit him. And I was like, damn it. But thinking back to it, it's the same mentality as the group of people at the baseball game. Mm-hmm. No one is going to mess with a guy who is 6'10". Like, and right. that guy was like, did we get peed on? I go, yes. Are you also very angry at this guy? And he was just like, listening to Depeche Mode.
Yep.
Having a good time. So I think there are times when you think there's going to be defense, you think people are going to be able to behave, and you have really good experiences at concerts, and then you get peed on.
I think that's a perfect place to end it. But I think, I think in general, I just think people should be more cognizant and aware. It almost feels like in a post-COVID world, which I know people fucking hate hearing about, but in this world where we are back to concerts and events happening, I just feel like people have lost a little bit of the humanity of those events. It feels very feral and like everyone for themselves, but it's like these things run better and feel better, and we all enjoy them more when we feel like we're on the same team. When it feels like, oh no, we all get it. Like we're all here to enjoy a communal event, a band we love, see something we're excited about. So I think just remembering to treat everybody else how you'd like to be treated. And don't spill your beer on people or piss on them.
Yeah, if you're going into a crowd, right, take those sips. Take those sips. Don't bang into people. Have a good time.
Be nice.
Be nice.
Great.
Be excellent to each other.
Okay. Hope you guys enjoyed this little bonus short episode. We will be back with more very soon, I'm sure. You guys can follow us at FatherDaughterEXP on Instagram and TikTok, at the Father-Daughter Experience on YouTube, and you can find us wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.